Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. His name is Jimmy Korderas. His name is Justin LaBar, and it's the Wrestling Inc. WWE Raw After Show. And have we got a good one for you? We've got a Bad Bunny match announcement. We've got a new championship unveiled, and we even have some promos and matches that happen that we're going to talk about as well. Before we get into all that, though, Jimmy Korderas, I'm looking at you. How are you, pal?
I'm doing much better now. Before that third period started, yes, I was kind of double dipping tonight and watching my Toronto Maple Leafs in Tampa Bay coming back from a 4-1 deficit to defeat the Lightning 5-4 in overtime and take a 3-1 lead in the series. And as one of the few people who was alive the last time the Leafs won the Stanley Cup, this is a good start. They need one more win, but still.
Maple Leafs and Stanley Cup, is that arena football? I don't know what you're talking about here.
Oh, my goodness. you West Coasters.
Very cool.
You have to forgive him. He's from Seattle. They just got a hockey team a year ago. They're just getting on board with this whole, they just learn how to make ice.
They're cracking.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I was a Tacoma SaberCats fan when we had a team there. So in any case, I am good to see you, Jimmy and Justin. How have you been?
I've been good. Baseball season is here. Weather is somewhat warmish depending on what day of the week it is here in Pittsburgh. But baseball season is here, and my Baltimore Orioles 7 in a row. They are in the right on the top of the standings there, in the top 3 or 4 in Major League Baseball. Coming out hot. They got all their top prospects all starting to bloom at the same time. We got momentum. We got Old Bay. We got cold beer. We got the Inner Harbor and crabs coming. It is good right now to be a Baltimore Orioles fan.
Man, you guys got all this good stuff going on right now, and here I am, a Seattle sports fan, just waiting for the draft next week. Already counting my chickens before they hatch, hoping we get some good players. A lot of people talking about the not in the smoke box this week. Well, for me, I'm getting my camera stuff set up. The lighting needs a little bit of work, but it's a process, right? Things will get better with the lighting and whatnot here. Thank you to everyone who's joining us, by the way, chatting and everything. In the chat here, we will talk about all of this good stuff, but make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe while you're here. We've got some news we want to talk about. And, sometimes we have news and I'm like, I guess this is news, but we got some pretty interesting news this time around. We're going to start with Mercedes Monet. Reportedly only has one show left in her deal, and that's for New Japan and not for Stardom. No dates left for Stardom. Fightful Select has learned from people in Monet's camp that the former IWGP Women's Champion has no more dates with Stardom and only one more date with New Japan Pro Wrestling scheduled to be Resurgence in Long Beach on May 21st. While future dates with New Japan in Japan weren't dismissed, it was noted that none were planned as of now, which would effectively make Monet a free agent following her Resurgence appearance. Justin, that is about as that's big news. Mercedes Monet being a free agent in a month is a very big news.
It is. She made like her little splash and return to the wrestling world, and she certainly, by all accounts, it seems like and the measurements made a difference with her time there. But so now it's a free agent. So again, just because Mercedes Monet is going to cost a lot of Monet, if she wants to return stateside, in terms of stateside based promotion, I'd have to, again, WWE and AEW really the only two I think that are a realistic financial option. And look, WWE has cooled their jets on bringing back talent and signing talent. in the last few months, and getting ready to have the draft, and who knows how NXT plays in. So do they feel that they need to spend that kind of money and investment to have her as part of their product? And never mind, maybe whatever character or backstage or political situation that might be between her and whoever's in charge. So I really think this is something that AEW does not shy away. There is no hiring freeze in AEW. Everybody's all elite every single week. So I think that's what I'm watching, is as AEW is really trying to build around this women's division with a few of the homegrowns, and then the ex-WWE stars coming over. I think that I could see there being an argument that she would fit in there in some capacity. Again, especially if there's talk of them having another show that's supposed to be equal caliber of Dynamite. We'll see. So Mercedes Monet being all elite is kind of where my eyes are going to be focused on for the next few weeks.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think that obviously the WWE is a great place to land for any wrestler on the planet, but I do think the more interesting story is if she was to wind up in AEW, just because that'd be different. That would be new. What are your thoughts on Mercedes potentially going to AEW, coming back to WWE, or I don't know, maybe just hanging out in Hollywood?
Yeah, that's the thing too. She's got that going for her, with the Mandalorian stuff and other projects that she probably has in her little date book. Let's put it that way. But that makes it more interesting because we see that WWE loves to promote, that their superstars go to Hollywood and show up in whether it's a motion picture, a TV show, whatever the case may be. And it seems that Monet is heading in that direction, that she wants to split her time between pro wrestling and also doing stuff in Hollywood. She seems to enjoy that. That being said, maybe AEW is the option for her because, like you said, there's nothing future planned for her in New Japan, but that door is always open, and there's always kind of like that forbidden door thing that goes on with AEW and other promotions. So there's that option as well. And as Justin said, which I have in my notes as well, they are planning apparently that second show for Saturday nights, and it's going to be a split roster. Maybe the Outcasts become a two-faction team. One takes over on Wednesday nights, and the other one takes over on Saturdays. Who knows?
It was mentioned in the chat here, and let me pull it up. I should have saved it. Oh, yeah, here we go. Leo Bowden said Mercedes could be the one to beat Jade. I'll tell you, with very little buildup, Mercedes versus Jade feels like a massive match for AEW to have if they could make it happen. That's, of course, a lot of ifs along the way, but we'll have to watch. It'll be a month before we find out any of this anyways. It's also possible she just renews her contract with New Japan and it's all for nothing, but we will see. We got a super chat, and I want to say first off for our super chat, Antonio Garcia, I see your chat. I will get to that once we talk about the Triple H stuff, so sit tight, but we will talk about that one for you. And Best in the Smokers World, I haven't seen you around a while. Best in the Smokers World, where you been? Says, hey guys, I was at Raw and it was a legit sellout, hot crowd. And Jimmy, I'm a Blackhawks fan, but cheering for the Leafs. I know the feeling of waiting forever. I know what a cup winner feels like. So Jimmy, some luck being sent to you from Chicago. And it sounds like it was a great crowd tonight live. No pumped in sound, it didn't feel like today.
No, it's a great building. Anybody who's ever been there, it's people talk about the newer buildings and stuff like that, but sometimes there's something about that old building in Chicago that's special. I remember WrestleMania. They mentioned WrestleMania there, WrestleMania 22, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's what he said.
No, yeah, but I was there for anyways, it was awesome.
Yeah. And that building's always one of the ones that the talent will tell you is one of their favorite to perform, and I've been there before as well. It's the way the sound bounces off that place, and just for a pop reference, besides Mania 22, for wrestling pop, that was the building where Jericho made his WWE debut. And if you remember that, when he interrupts The Rock and the Y2K countdown's been going on, and if you go back and watch that, I'll go find it on YouTube or whatever, it is legit one of the loudest concentrated pops you will ever hear, and it was in that building.
That's right. That building has been memorable, a lot of memorable moments, and the Rosemont Horizon, man.
What a great way to debut someone. Still, side note, just a countdown.
Mhm.
like, and no one knows what it is, just a countdown. And they're like, well, what is this? So cool. What a smart way to do something. But yeah, a lot of talent loves to go to that arena, and that's proof because we have another big story. CM Punk reportedly visited tonight's WWE Raw and was asked to leave. PW Insider Elite is reporting that former AEW and WWE champion CM Punk was backstage in the Allstate Arena in the Chicago border town of Rosemont, Illinois for tonight's show. Punk was reportedly visiting unnamed people backstage, though the report does state that Punk met with WWE Chief Content Officer Triple H, which marks the first time the two have reportedly met since Punk walked out of WWE in 2014. Punk reportedly met with several people and was eventually asked to leave the arena, which PWI Insider says was Vince McMahon's decision that Punk adhered to without protest. A video purportedly showing Punk outside the arena was later posted on Twitter. Jimmy, what do you make of CM Punk showing up to Raw tonight?
Man, he knows how to do business. Let's put it that way. Maybe he was legitimately going to visit friends, but at the same time, he knew that if this got out there, especially if he made himself seen, an event, you can't keep a secret nowadays, not like this anyways. He knew that it was going to stir the pot and get people talking and create a buzz, and it absolutely has. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful manner. That's what Punk cares about. Creating a buzz for himself. He wants to get people talking about him. And what better way to do it than to show up at the WWE show tonight at Raw in Chicago, in his hometown, and especially when he's still technically under contract to AEW. So them asking him to leave isn't as bad as it seems. It's more like a business move, kind of like, hey, you know what? You're still contracted to the other guys. This is not, or either that or don't use us for your negotiation tactics. Let's put it that way. But the fact that he met with people like Triple H and stuff like that, very, a little bit surprised, but at the same time, he knows how to work a room. Let's put it that way.
Justin is Jimmy's totally right. We're all talking about it. This is big news. Twitter blew up the second the scent of this hit the air. But let me ask you this: if everything we're hearing about what's going on in AEW is true, and that's a big if. I always say I don't know what's going on, but based on what we're hearing, is it the wisest thing to be seen at WWE right now for CM Punk? I get this feeling of like if me and my girlfriend were fighting a lot, would it be smart for me to go be seen at my ex's house? You know what I mean? Like, is this a good move or is this a bad move?
Yes. Look, he knew what he was doing here. If a security camera footage is going to get leaked, if a security camera image is going to get leaked of Ricky Starks being at WrestleMania riding with Cody Rhodes, then you damn well know CM Punk being in the building when Raw's in town is going to get leaked. And here's the thing. Punk has been gone from WWE since January of 2014. They have ran Chicago at least 2 times a year, every year since. And to the best of all of our knowledge, he has not shown up there once. He chose this time to show up. And oh, by the way, it's the guy that's gone on the air, and referred to Triple H as the doofus son-in-law. And it's not like I know Punk actually does have probably friends still there in the locker, but it's not like he's been clamoring to get back into the WWE circles. But he chose tonight for a reason, and I say yes to your girlfriend analogy because here's the thing: if he either one or two things is the situation, he's either cleared everything up with Tony Khan and the other people he has problems in the locker room, and they're all at this point now it's now a work, and we're all just waiting for the right time to have him reappear. Presumably, if they're going to start this new weekly show in Chicago. And so everything's fine. And so this is him just going, hey, guys, I'm just going to show up there. It's going to get a buzz. It's going to get my name back in there. People are going to start Googling again. This might bring new viewers, people that have forgotten, whatever. Or the come to Jesus meeting is yet to come here between all the parties. And they all don't like him or they have their feelings about him anyway. This isn't going to change things one way or the other. So this is his way to maybe put a little leverage on his side. This is a way to say, hey guys, just see how much you got me trending and buzzing. And oh, by the way, I'm an AEW wrestler, so I'm getting you guys trending and buzzing. Any which way, he's going to spin it as he was doing this for the greater good of him and AEW. Whether the Bucks or whatever, whether they buy into it, believe it, I don't know. But he picked this particular time for a reason. It wasn't like he had something important all of a sudden he had to tell Mike Mizanin that he couldn't do via a DM. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So this was intentional, and he knew what he was doing. And I'm not the biggest CM Punk fan. I'll say that right now. But hey, a worker's going to work, and he knows how to work.
Yeah, I always want to say too, I have no dog in the fight. I don't work for either of these companies, and I'm a fan of wrestling. But what I love most about wrestling is conflict, and the fact that this stirs things up a little bit, shakes the hornet's nest a little bit, makes me excited. I like it when the hornet's nest gets shooken. That's all I'm saying. I like it when stuff like that happens. So I thought this was fun. It made the day more interesting, and we'll see what happens next.
Well, like you said, Jack, when you shake up the hornet's nest, what do you get? A lot of buzz.
Hey, I thought you were going to say you get stung.
Waka waka.
Yeah. That's the old man jokes. What do you want there?
But
why did the pig go to the kitchen?
Oh, no. Why?
Why did the pig go to the kitchen?
Yeah.
Because he was bacon.
Okay, we need to put it in.
Wow.
Have you guys heard about
that one?
Have you guys heard about those new corduroy pillows? They're making headlines.
Look what I started. I almost feel like I regret starting this.
You deserve this. You deserve this.
Yes, I do.
So it's let's get into talking about a wrestling show. Why don't we, instead of these bad jokes? But in the comments section, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, let us know your best bad joke. Leave that there. That'll be a fun little bit there. But if you're watching, like, comment, share, subscribe. Of course, all that stuff is very important. I want to let everyone know we got a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I always like to share these. Big Smooth 39 said, best podcast out there, not up for debate. Don't know if Big Smooth was talking about one of the shows or all of us, but I'll just assume he meant Monday nights. So we'll leave it at that. We also have a Best in the Smokers World did respond and say that they've been working pretty long hours, so that's why they haven't been live, but they do catch the show later. So Best in the Smokers World, thank you so much for supporting. And if you're in the chat, whether you're Dream Realm Studios and Tommy O, Tut Graf, Jeroy, Jay, Majestic, Marie, Ricky Zaldivar, Marcus Horizon, Doc P, Antonio Garcia, Mike Martin, Azelle. We got a lot of folks in here. Night One, Stephen Camp. A lot of folks I haven't seen in a while. KOD669 as well. Kirk and a lot of folks here. Thanks so much for coming through. We got a really good show. The Jiff King, Dylan Matthews, and Tim Nichols, and Huffman Elite Training. Lots of folks here. So thanks for joining us. Like, comment, share, subscribe as always. Let's get into the show. Let's talk about WWE Raw. We're at minute 18 and a half. Might as well. So we start with Cody Rhodes reminiscing about his Hell in a Cell match in this very arena when Finn Balor interrupts, empathizing with Cody's loss to Roman Reigns and questioning his trust in Brock Lesnar. Finn invites Cody to join Judgment Day. Cody declines, announcing he's clear to compete and challenging Finn to a match later tonight. Jimmy, it wasn't the most headline-grabbing intro to a show, but it was entertaining, pulled from the past, and it gave us some good content for tonight in what will be a very hold the formation type show, I thought. But in general, I thought this was a good open.
Yeah, it was a good open. You know, Cody's, and you saw it, as soon as his music hit, the place went banana, as the good old the late great Pat Patterson used to say. He's so over right now. And, you know, for those who may have not missed it, he has battled, Finn Balor in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and this is a good interaction, and I like where they went with it, especially Finn saying, you know what, you need some help. Why didn't you, we could have worked together, that sort of thing. And the interaction was fine. And then, of course, built to a match that, was going to be good between two talents that are hugely over in different ways. And I like the fact that the crowd reacted appropriately for the heel.
Yes.
They did boo Finn Balor as opposed to cheer him as hey, this is a heel, but we like this guy.
Yeah, Justin, what about you? Do you agree with this? What were your thoughts on this open?
Yeah, I liked the open. We had the super chat earlier, the person who was just there in Chicago, very loud crowd. And like you said, Jack, it seemed by all accounts, we got the natural organic sound. And, Chicago is one of those passionate cities that they always make noise, but sometimes they don't make noise the way the booker wants them to. But that was not the case tonight. They did not hijack a show. They were loud and reacting the way you wanted them to react. And I think that there's a certain amount of credit that has to go to the office, to the backstage, of that they are telling good stories. They're positioning characters in ways that play to their strengths as heel or faces. And they are listening to what the crowd wants to do. So you have Finn Balor, who once upon a time was, a guy who came from, New Japan, an internet darling, if you want to classify him as that, had a run as a face, but now he's in this heel group and he's getting heat. And the explanation, as Jimmy talked about, you could use some people around you, Cody. You're getting ready to fight the Beast, and that made sense. And then there's some subtle synergy there. Cody last in Chicago, and he had that vicious Hell in a Cell match with the injury, and look, Finn just came out of Hell in a Cell with 14 staples. So like, there's just it just felt right. It just felt like this was a kind of this felt right, and I thought this was really well done. And again, the crowd reacting the way they want, and also I think my good buddy Kevin Nash had said, and I agree, and I was glad that it kind of translated over tonight. Okay, don't have Cody ride the whole woe is me, I lost at Mania for too long, because you do run a risk of it sounding whiny and whatever. Just keep moving forward. His next task is the Beast, and he's going to get back up there, and he's going to get there. And like, there was no mention of Mania tonight. It is all hands on deck for the Beast, Brock Lesnar. So I thought I really couldn't find much of a flaw in how this opening sequence went. I thought it was well done.
A few things that happened on this episode, and I noticed it here a lot. And there was rumors of Vince McMahon pulling strings from I don't know, wherever Vince McMahon was at. We talked a little bit before we got on. I didn't feel crazy like he was involved in this, but there were a few things I did notice seemed to creep their way back in. And we saw the first of them here with the Cody comes out and then says, "Let's take a look," and just to take us to a replay. Also a rematch from fairly recently with Finn Balor and Brock. They repeated this like 15 times throughout the show. Brock is the most decorated combat. I can't remember the exact phrase, even though they said it a million times. The most decorated combat athlete of all time. Definitely a few of those Vince-isms did sneak their way in. At least it felt like it today. Maybe not the pumped-in crowd noise, but there was some things in there that did feel like they used to do this.
Well, but the label to Brock, it is true. He is. It is true. To combine boxing, MMA, and pro wrestling, that's the best way to phrase it. They've used it all the time. Yes, they used it back when Vince was, vocally in charge. But it is true. And again, you are going into a merger here with UFC, so there being an edict to tout and remind people of that, I can't say that I blame them, right? So
it's very fair.
So we move on and we get the Bloodline versus the LWO. It's a 6-man tag match, and there's some build to it from SmackDown. So this one made sense to have happen now. And despite the LWO's valiant efforts, the Bloodline emerged victorious, as I guess we all probably predicted. But after that, they're gearing up because of course they're gearing up for their big match on SmackDown and of course at Backlash. So it just made sense that they were going to win. And LWO isn't quite at that level yet to be beating the Bloodline. But Justin, I said earlier, it feels a little bit like this is a hold formation until the draft kind of episode. But this match did that. But also, like I said, it was built to, so it didn't feel as flagrant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, look, you need to get the LWO, the other members. I guess Ray is technically part of the LWO. You need to get the other three some good stage and showtime. And I think we knew that there was the travel issues. I don't know if it was last week or they all run together now, or 2 weeks ago for Raw. But
Mm-hmm.
I know plans got diverted there. So you need to get them out there, and they don't need to beat the Usos and Solo, but just to have them out there in a competitive match. They had some high spots, crowd was behind them. That's important because I mean I don't think they would resurrect this LWO idea and the new music that paid tribute to Eddie. If you paid attention to the music, and of course they're bringing back the shirts, which I saw some people wearing the shirts. So that's a merchandise thing. I don't think they would bring it back just to split it up in the draft. So the LWO is probably a thing that's going to stick around. So I thought this was good. Get them out there, give them a close call with the Bloodline, but get the people familiar with them. Because again, other than Ray, and then I mean to a lesser extent, other than Escobar, the other two aren't as well known. And and Joaquin Wilde, who got the huge feature to start the match. He's a guy who trained right here for our IWC Wrestling Academy. Been in business for many years in the wrestling business. He's a great guy. Happy to see him finally getting his just due, but generally the national audience doesn't know him as well because he's been under different names. So I thought tonight was a great showing again to elevate this LWO group, but not compromise the booking. You can't have the Usos and Solo lose right now. So I had no problem with this. I thought this was well done for what they needed to do. Again, considering LWO having not been featured as much in recent weeks.
Jimmy, what are your thoughts on the LWO?
No, I think they're a good group. They're just not resonating with a large majority of the population. Yes, they are good athletes. They're great in the ring. And tonight they showed it. They kind of got over, as we say, without going over, but at the same time, they're not at that level yet. They need time. They need to build them. And it's hard doing, constant 6-man tag matches, so to speak. And that's the hard way. Maybe do them a little bit individually and let them get some individual wins. And then, and pairing them with Rey Mysterio does help elevate them, but they need to do something to get that audience really invested in them because, they are some talent. And part of the problem is the promo stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the package. You know what I mean? Let them go out there and cut some great promos if they can. If they need help with it, then help them. That sort of thing. And I do have one little critique though on the finish. That kind of bothered me, if I can. This isn't a booking thing. It's the way the finish was laid out. I don't mind the distraction of the referee and the big Samoan spike behind his back when he was coming off the ropes. That's a huge move. But then he sells it. They pick him up and they shoot him in the ropes for the 1D. They didn't need to go that far. If you're trying to get that spike over, or at least, struggle, pick him up and just give him the 1D. Don't shoot him off into the ropes. I know people are saying, but that's still. To me, that kind of bothered me a little bit. It's like, here's this big Samoan spike when he's coming off the top rope. That should have laid him out. And then just you go to the finish. Cover there. Done.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the Samoan spike off the top looked awesome and probably should have been the end. But of course I could see them backstage saying, "Oh yeah, we'll do this and this," but then in the moment be like, "Oh wait, no, this was way cool. We should have," because it almost it wasn't the same, but it had that Shelton Benjamin HBK kind of like, "Oh wow, did you see where that came out of nowhere?" kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Nothing will top the Shelton Benjamin HBK one. I'm not saying it's the same, but you know what I mean. Visually, it was kind of a cool thing there. Mm-hmm. I love Legado del Fantasma. I think that when they were in NXT, they were like one of the coolest, stylistically groups they had, and so I've got a lot of time for all these guys. I just hope they do really well. But sometimes you gotta eat some L's on your way to getting to the top, and I think that's kind of the spot they're in right now. We move on. Speaking of the Usos, they had a few backstage segments, and I'm just going to roll them all into one big chunk now and just chat about them since we're chatting about them. But in the halls, Jay runs into Sammy, and Sammy says it's weird that Jay is dedicating the tag match to Roman, and if Jay loses, Roman will be upset. Jay says, don't worry about it because Jay made his choice and Sammy made his. Later, Jimmy is talking about super kick parties. And notices Jay is upset. Jay tells about Sammy. Jimmy finds Sammy even later than that and tells him to mind his own business because when Sammy loses, KO will turn his back on him. And then when Sammy runs into KO and Riddle, KO says they need to stop worrying about the Usos and they have to keep their titles. Justin, I loved these segments because it was just one of these stories that went throughout the show. And also it added so much weight to Friday night's match. Like, it's so big now, right?
It really is. The match is big. The draft is bigger. Because of it. I'm not saying the draft is bigger than the match. I'm saying that the match is bigger now. The draft is bigger. Yeah, and this just sums up what some people will describe pro wrestling and sports entertainment in the modern era, which is a male soap opera. This is a soap opera just filled with drama of who's cheating, who's being true. We don't even care anymore. That's a country song lyric, by the way. And that's that's what this is. There's so many dynamics, but there's so much history. There's rich history here. So yeah, this is fun. Maybe the funnest of it all, because if you ask me or any of us to try to fantasy book where to go next, you have 5 different avenues to go. Mm-hmm. And that is a booker's dream when you have that many options to explore.
And it's just for a SmackDown match. It's not even for some big super card show. It's just SmackDown. And you're right. The story is always what gets people to come back. We'll talk about our moves and things, but it's the story. And Jimmy, this is where I want to talk to you about what makes this really good, I think, is the facial expressions of the guys as they're doing this. They're not just being the tough guy that doesn't sell it in any way. Like, you can see when they're saying, like, well, Kevin Owens is going to turn on you. He remembers every time you kicked him in the face. And you can see Sami Zayn's face like, oh my God, you're right. I could be in trouble here. And Jay and everyone else, like, it feels like they believe it.
No, and you're right. The facial expressions, they're working here. It's part of the package. It's part of selling the story. And they're not overselling that. They're not doing this like, hey, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're not making it obvious. It's a subtle facial expression where where they're saying, hey, don't worry. When, look out for Kevin, because Kevin, he's using you as well. And you can see Sami going, like, he's going, He's kind of, they're planting those seeds. And like Justin said, there's 5 different avenues you could take, and either one is a viable option. And that's what's great about this, where everybody, especially in today's day and age, is, they're going here. Oh, this guy's going to turn, or this guy's going to do this, and this guy's. You really don't know where this is going. You say, well, it can go here, it can go there, it may go this way, but you can't sit there and go, this is what's going to happen. I love that.
Yep. And it gives everyone a chance to sort of say what they want to happen, and that's how, as wrestling fans, I think we get our real. When you're a fan, it's because you want something to happen and you want someone to win, not because you're like, this is what's best or this is how they should do it. But you're like, I'm so caught up in this story. I really just want Jey Uso to be happy or something. And now I want whatever to happen so he can, and then now I'm rooting for the story instead of what the, other nonsense is that us wrestling fans, sometimes we just get so worked up in as we're watching. I did love, just to add on, the very end, Matt Riddle saying, I know what you're going through. It was like, oh yeah, he did kind of have a situation with Randy Orton. So it's kind of a fun throwback in there. Though there was this part of me, I know nothing about where Randy Orton is, but as he was saying, I was like, I wanted to be like, no, don't say Randy Orton, because then we want it to be a surprise when he comes back. Let us all forget about Randy Orton for a little bit. But I don't know, he might be gone for a long time. But that's where my head was at there. So we get Trish Stratus, and she's talking to Kathy Kelly, and Trish says that Becky Lynch isn't around because she can't handle pressure. So Trish did her a favor and put her on the shelf so she can sit at home. And now Becky owes her a thank you. Jimmy, Trish is so good at being a jerk. I had no idea I was going to hate the lovable Trish Stratus.
Again, you talk about making it believable. She's making it believable. She's really good at what she does. And I think she's a little bit underrated as one of the best female talents that the WWE has put out there. Obviously Hall of Famer and such. But again, she looks like she belongs. She looks like she wants to be there. She's having a great time doing it. And I'm loving this. And curious again to see where it goes, because there's obviously a few directions. You talk about Lita, you talk about Becky, there's options there.
Yeah, Justin, talk to me about Trish Stratus. I think she's knocking it out of the park.
I agree. I questioned, do we want to boo Trish Stratus? But she's giving you all the reasons to do it. You know what's crazy about Trish is that it's the first time she's been heel in like 20 years. And that promo last week was she just killed it. And it's just wild to think, and if we had this podcast 20 years ago, who knows what we would have been saying. But it's wild to think that Trish goes down in history as being one of the best women that the company's ever had, right? Mm-hmm. And we always make such a big deal in this era now about, there's a big conversation about, how do you acquire talent? They need to pay their dues working the indie scene, and oh no, we can't have this person that's coming from the football world or the fitness world or whatever. And Triple H famously talks about with the Performance Center, they don't care where the talent comes from, they just like talent, and then they will then teach them the way. And it's crazy because Trish was, Trish came from the fitness world. She didn't work. She wasn't working indie shows. She came from the fitness world. She had the entertainment kind of thing naturally to her, but she learned the art, the X's and O's, if you will, of pro wrestling in WWE, a kind of trial by error. Because again, they didn't put her through the developmental kind of process that you would put somebody through now. So I just think it's kind of crazy now that 20 years later, that's such a big thing about they acquire so much talent, and where's the talent coming from, and what have you. And Trish is one of the best examples of what Triple H says, which is, we just want talent. We just want to identify raw talent from both from an athletic standpoint, but also from a charismatic standpoint, from a sex appeal standpoint, whatever. But and they identified it with her, and it worked out for them and her pretty well. And so that's what's really been kind of resonating in the last couple of weeks as we look at her career, and she's kind of doing this this Hall of Fame Goodwill tour. That she's such a special talent, but not a talent that came from the ideal origins.
Yeah, it's funny because with the NXT and everything like that, you're right, people are hung up on it, but there's a lot of wrestlers over time that are some of the biggest names of all time. Their first goal wasn't to be in wrestling. I mean, a lot of them, even I think The Rock wanted to be a football player originally, and same with Roman Reigns. And there's a lot of people who, I think Sting wanted to be an actor first. Like, there's a lot of people who wanted to do other things first before getting into wrestling. But now where you get very, stick our nose in the air. Like, oh, you played football until you were 18. Too late, pal.
Yeah. I mean, Rock and Roman are special cases because they were in a family of wrestlers. So it's kind of like they had, whether they admit it or not, they kind of had this, like, whether they realize it or not, you can watch, they kind of had this, safety net of a fallback to try this. But you are right. There are a lot of guys and girls anymore that you look at that just, they had other things. I mean, Solo Sikoa. Solo is like 30 years old, which is not old, but it's not young. And the rest of the world, Solo pursued football and athletics for a little bit, and then finally said, "Okay, I'm in this wrestling royalty of a family," and then he's put all of his eggs in the basket, and it looks like it's working out for him. The pathway is very interesting and funny, and it's amazing how we get held up on the guys and girls who just are 100% pro wrestling 365, and what that does or doesn't value.
Well, speaking of people who are wrestling 24, 365, Dream Realm Studios, the super chat saying, I think a movie based on Jimmy Korderas should happen, starring Elias Kodas. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, aka Casey Jones from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I did not see this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but
no, neither.
Jimmy, we need a story of your life.
Well, I don't know if there's a movie, but there is a book.
So we should make a movie based on the book, not on your. But the book's always better, Jimmy.
That's what they say.
I've read Jimmy's book twice, and I think Jimmy's book would make a fantastic series of drunk history episodes. If you've never watched Drunk History on Comedy Central, if they did an adaptation of having an entire season dedicated to pro wrestling, I think Jimmy's book could lead the way. Just on the reenactments of how we got to be in certain situations and scenarios whether it be Jimmy with Andre or whatever. I think there'd be some great
the spoon game. Let's just put
spoon
that
game.
Oh my
and even things that don't necessarily involve alcohol, but just the retelling of Jimmy getting to be a Taker Edge Mania referee. I just think there's a lot of
getting chopped by Big Show in the lobby of a hotel at 5:30 in the morning.
Khali breaking down on the road.
Yes.
And you pulling over for that one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. Jimmy, is people who are listening to this, where can they pick up the book if they want to hear some of these stories?
Well, it's online. It's easy to find. It's an ECW press book. So,
ECW.
ECW, yeah.
By the way, it was Dream Realm clarified the 90s Ninja Turtle movie. So I know that Casey Jones, but he's got to be too old now. You want a strapping young man to play Jimmy Korderas.
There it is. That's from WrestleMania 24, yeah.
That's not in Chicago, famously. Not number 22. So everyone watching should pick up that book. In the meantime, we're going to talk about the Street Profits versus Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. Pretty straightforward win for the Profits. Good seeing Benjamin and Alexander, but kind of another fill-in match before the draft, it felt like. Jimmy, feet to the fire. Will the draft be the end of the Street Profits?
The way they kept mentioning this could be the last time that the Street Profits wrestle as a tag team. I can't even count how many times they said it during the match, and the match wasn't that long. So it certainly sounds like it's heading in that direction. And that's, obviously a lot of people say, well, Montez Ford is the guy. He looks fantastic. He'd break out. But you know what? Angelo Dawkins in the last little while has been showing that, you know what? You talk about holding feet to the fire. If you hold his feet to the fire, he can go as a singles as well. So both guys, I think, can succeed as singles. But right now, a lot of attention is on Montez Ford.
Yeah, it may be his time. Justin, any takeaways from this one other than Street Profits get the win?
Yeah, no, this could be the last of them. But I don't think there's a Jannetty in the situation. I do think both men could search forward both as babyfaces just on separate brands and single stars. And this was, we talked earlier about Vince. This apparently was a change. This match was not on the original plan. The original plan, I guess, in the spot was a women's tag team that was scrapped for. So, make what you want out of that. Is this Vince again hard selling the draft or whatever? But I do think this was and also never mind the fact that both Street Profit guys are, as individuals, I think could thrive in the tag division. What else is there for them to do? They've worked with everybody. So I just don't think there's much creative originality to do with them. I think you run the risk. Sorry, Jimmy. You run the risk of the act just getting stale. So I think it is time. Again, they can split, be singles guys. It doesn't have to be throw one through the barber glass window. It can be kind of like how New Day. They just go their separate ways amicably. They're still going to support each other. They'll still find each other in the Rumble next year, and they'll work for a little bit together. You can still be, aligned, but they're just going to be on separate brands, and now they're going to be fighting for singles titles.
Yeah, that's sorry, I didn't mean to butt in there, but that's what I was thinking. That it doesn't have to be a turn by one of them on the other. They could both excel as baby faces, and they both have that in them. Yeah,
the biggest question is which one, and I'm not joking here. Which one takes the Street Profits music? Which one takes
the look?
Which one gets to hold on to the gimmick? Because you have to. One of them is going to have to. Not reinvent, but they're going to have to evolve a little bit to have their own identity. Yes. So one can have a different music, and do they both keep wearing the local athletic jersey to the tonight they're both wearing Bulls gear essentially. So you will have to figure out which one has a character that you can evolve, but you don't need to. One does not have to stab the other one in the back.
Right.
I absolutely believe that too. But Baby Ice, with a really good point, I got to highlight here. No, LaBar, we want the window.
Hey, look, the window is a fond memory of my young childhood, but you need the right situation. I don't think that one's this.
I like Antonio Garcia says, now we need Henry Cavill to play Jimmy or Chris Evans. So I think both those guys might be able to pull it off.
I don't think Chris Evans wants to do the hair though.
Who'd they ever beat?
Thanos. So we get a Triple H segment, and nothing really happens here, so I'm just going to skip over it. No, we get Triple H comes out and says after the draft at Night of Champions, they will crown a new World Heavyweight Champion with a new belt. Triple H says this will be defended everywhere, and Roman will only be on one show going forward. Kind of a lot in there. They show the new belt. Justin, unpack that for us.
Yeah, there's a lot here. So I'm just going to, right up the front, as a fan, I'm not the biggest fan of this. As a fan, because I love the idea of one world title. I love the idea of elevating the US and IC titles. I think especially Gunther has really done that as a fan. But part of what we do here, and maybe you guys disagree, part of what we do here is also to be analysts. And it's just to try to break this down from the logic standpoint and put aside our personal. And when doing that, I understand what happened here. Again, especially when you're coming up with media rights deals and you're doing TV deals. And if you're on different networks, executives who don't even know the ins and outs of pro wrestling, they want to know, do I have a world champion? What's an intercontinental champion? So I can understand that if you're going to have your shows, that you probably need to have a world champion on both. Okay, I get that. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. It also makes sense that you can open up another world championship without having to force feed and rush Roman losing, because you have this spectacular thing going on with Roman. He's going to hit 1,000 days. I think day number 1,000 actually is Night of Champions. So
is it really?
I think it is. So on all those reasons, I get it. I get it. I get it. The challenging uphill thing, and I love Jimmy's feedback to this. The challenging uphill thing is going to be whoever is the world heavyweight champion first, and then however many more. It's going to be a challenge for them to not feel second class until Roman drops his, because Roman's title reign is just so grand that it's hard to imagine. Like, don't give it to Cody Rhodes, because this is going to feel like you're giving Cody Rhodes the manufactured, made up certificate ribbon that we just hand to you. Like, it needs to be somebody else, and I don't know who. That's a whole other debate, but it's interesting. And my other question too is, what title history lineage are we now working with? I assume, because Roman, again, we're approaching 1,000 days. Roman's title history is definitely the WWE/WWF title. I'm talking about the title that Austin beat Shawn for at Mania 14, and that Hogan beat Sheik for in 84. Like, that's that. But the Universal title that was launched in 2016 that Finn won, that's also tied into this supposed reign. So is Roman the last person to hold the Universal, or whoever beats Roman, are they the next universe? Like, so I'm a little curious of where we're going. Like, our title history is getting a little blurred, and then this new World Heavyweight Championship, which looks like the classic big gold WCW NWA title that in Jimmy's day as a SmackDown referee was on that brand. Are we picking that lineage up, or is this a brand new lineage? Is the person who wins this title on May 27th, are they the inaugural champion of that title? So, and this is some nerd stuff that some people are probably like, Jesus, LaBar, shut the F up. But this is the stuff that matters to me. I'm a light wrestling. I'm a light WWE historian. These are the things that I'm curious about. But I understand what was going on here, and it is what it is.
Well, to your point about the lineage, it can sound kind of nerdy, but it actually is really important, because everything about wrestling, it's all about stakes, and you need to know what it is that the stakes are on. If this is a brand new championship with a brand new lineage, being the first one to win it means something. But also, if you hold the title for 300 days, are you the longest reigning, or is you know what I mean? Like, where does that factor in? Those are all things that yes, it's kind of made up, but at the same time, you need to know what it is so that those things matter. And if it doesn't matter, then it's literally just a piece of, hardware that you're carrying. It's like a Andre the Giant memorial trophy if we don't care about those things.
Right.
And so those do matter. But Jimmy, you've been around through a lot of different eras of pro wrestling. And just to put my thoughts out there, I agree with LaBar. As a fan, I hate this. I hate that they're changing this. I really don't like it. But I also see exactly why it makes sense. I see why they're doing it. I'm not naive. I get it. But what are your thoughts from your perspective, having been at the company, been away from the company? What do you think about this development?
Like you said, back in the day when I was refereeing there, and I was a SmackDown exclusive referee at the time during the brand split, as you can see there with the nice blue, and look at the title belt I'm holding up. Like you guys, I hate to sound like I'm climbing on board, but yes, as a fan, I'm not liking this, but I do understand it. And if they are going to do this draft that's coming up and have the brands separated, essentially, I understand why, but at the same time, like Joe said, I'm concerned about the so-called secondary championships, the IC title and the US championship losing value, because when you had a one world champion who traveled between all brands, and he had to defend against Raw and SmackDown superstars, and possibly even NXT superstars. You never know. Why not have him go down there and defend every on rare and special occasions? That makes the title feel that much more important. And you can make the IC championship the SmackDown title and the US championship the Raw title. But just from a fan's perspective point of view, world heavyweight champions sounds so much better. It sounds like it's a big deal. Yeah. But oh man, I hate to be the fence sitter. I'm going to wait and see what happens and see who becomes like somebody mentioned it, because I was thinking it too. If Cody, you wonder who's going to win it. If Cody is the guy, it feels like a consolation prize. And you don't want that to happen either. So there's going to be a lot of thought going into who is going to be the inaugural world heavyweight champion. And like you said, the lineage, does it continue?
Yeah. Cody's the absolute last person that should be considered for this. I almost think you go with a little bit of, and I have another example. I have another suggestion that we'll get to in a future segment here of the show. But I think this is where you maybe you take some chances at some thriving mid-card talent who have been looking to push through that ceiling that you put. This is where I think you go for there. Also, I want to give a shout out because they're actually a company here just outside of Pittsburgh, and they've been long-standing. Wildcat Championship belts. They've designed a lot of classic pro wrestling title belts over history, and they were the ones that designed this brand new World Heavyweight Championship. So I want to give a shout out to Drew and his group at Wildcat Championship belts here just outside of Pittsburgh.
And I wanted to say too, real quick, about the names and things. To Jimmy's point, I think the world title sounds great, but if they're all supposed to, it is one of those things where if you were like, oh yeah, there's the NXT champion and the world champion, you'd say, well, the world champion's better. But then if I was like, yeah, you got the world champion and the undisputed universal WWE champion, I go, well, I think I know what the main one is. But that's all just us in the weeds, I guess. So I had a few people on Twitter. I asked, I sent it out on Twitter and had a few people respond about what they thought of the show, and it was all about the championship. At Al Steven I think it's Al Steven Man. Says, hate the new belt is going to be first one at the Saudi show, but I get it. I love the look of it. The Rios Bank said, we're losing the WWE title's lineage, but we don't know that for sure. And so we'll have to see about that. So a lot of thoughts on that. And of course, Antonio Garcia with a chat that has been waiting here for a long time. So Antonio, I'm glad you waited. Thank you so much for being patient. Says, so it's cool for Triple H to make a special announcement to introduce a new title. Then says, so I wonder if Roman gets a new belt also, or are they just retiring the blue one? And that's followed up by another super chat, I want to say, by Tyrone Dawkins saying, so 3 belts. And I think we're all in agreement of what that probably is. And that is Roman Reigns has 1 championship. There's 2 belts with it.
Well, yeah. Roman, it's important from this point on until Roman's reign ends. He continues to hold the hardware of 2 straps because that's visually dominant, and that's visually, it's the WWE and Universal Championship. It's this merger that has happened. So visually, he keeps those 2 belts and he continues to hold them high simultaneously. I do think, though, whenever he gets beat, and now with another world title, kids, I'm not joking. We might be looking at next year's Mania it might be till next year's Mania until you're even talking about him being beat again. But whenever he does, that's when I think you have the opportunity to rebrand the belt. And look, I wouldn't be surprised. And the lineage is always going to be the WWE title. Again, the one that stretches back to, to 80s, 70s, through Bruno. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we get a new updated look. It's still going to be big because they want it big. But maybe it is a new rebrand of the Winged Eagle or something like that. But you don't get that until Roman loses. Roman has to carry these 2 straps until he loses, because that's part of the allure, is that he has conquered these 2 title lineages, even though one is far more grander than the other. That's the gimmick.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, I was thinking it's weird that they're talking about combining the world champions, but we'll keep the tag team champions, or making a second world champion, but we'll leave the tag team champions combined. It's all good. They
might address that soon, though. Who knows? And I mean, with all the controversy going on with amongst the Usos, that might get handled soon.
We got 1 championship that is not disputed, and that is Bianca Belair, and she has a promo backstage that is interrupted by Damage Control. Io is about to get a match, but Bayley makes it a 6-person tag, adding more tension to the group and leaving the mystery of who Bianca's partners will be. And we find out that the champs hang in packs because Bianca's partners are Raquel and Liv. Team champion gets the win, and Io is very upset about the whole thing. Jimmy, I love that the champs won because they should. They're the champs.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it just, there's something about Damage Control that hasn't got me invested. Still, even though there's little planted seeds about tension, or Bayley seems a little upset that Io is getting this opportunity against Bianca Belair, where she feels maybe she should be. But it's not enough. There needs to be more there. They just haven't got me yet.
Justin, is Io winning at Backlash? I think she is.
I don't know. Damage Control stock is about as valuable as Blockbuster stock right now. It's just I don't buy it, and it sucks because I think that the individuals that make up Damage Control all have something to offer, but it's the presentation of them as a trio is just. Ugh. I'm so. I watch it because I have to. I am so disinterested when Damage Control is on TV right now.
They do have a banger theme, but I think
they do.
I like their theme, but I think that the way that I think this group is breaking up, and I think I think Io's going to win, and that's when Bayley is going to lose it, and then we'll get Io versus Bayley. It'd be very Evolution. Maybe Dakota Kai will put Io on her shoulders, and Bayley will give the old thumbs down. But that's my prediction far in advance there. But for now.
In my mind, it might be a case of, especially if you send 1 or 2 ladies up, it might be a case of go back down to NXT and let's try to reestablish something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a super chat from Bigfoot Sneakerhead. I haven't seen you in a while, Bigfoot Sneakerhead. Where have you been? Let me know where you've been. if you've been gone for a while, you sent through a super chat. I'm going to ask, where have you been? But Bigfoot Sneakerhead says, let Cody beat Roman Reigns later on and change that belt to the Eagles WWE Championship. I don't think. Wait, the Eagles like the Philadelphia Eagles? Or
the Winged Eagle.
The Winged Eagle. The Winged Eagle title ain't coming back. I know everyone loves it, but
no, it can come back. It has to be a little bit bigger. But WWE loves the branding, and they do this when they send it to all the sports teams. Yeah. It's the side plates where you can, so it can come back. It could, and look, that's the favorite. That's the nostalgia act. That Winged Eagle was, when Austin beat Shawn in Mania 14 and 98. He held up. That's the title he won, and then the next night they evolved to the new bigger title, which then Steve hated because he actually cut himself on it. So that's when he actually then moved to the Smoking Skull belt. But so it's been since the spring of '98 since the Winged Eagle. So and Cody would be the perfect person to go back to a retro design like that. But you don't do it until Roman loses. You have to just keep with what you have with Roman.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about that Winged Eagle belt, but I think what we really should do is go back to the classics, like the spinner. No, just me.
Yeah,
maybe, maybe I just said rated R spinning belt for the win. Yeah, maybe you and me were in the same.
It sold well, from what I heard. It sold well.
Let's just get the Fiend stretched face one that was around for like a month and cost $6,000. Austin Theory, he claims he deserves the world title and reminds us of his victory over John Cena, but Bobby Lashley interrupts, praises Theory's skills, and reveals that it was him who set up the triple threat match at Backlash. We get a big brawl, only for Bronson Reed to enter the fray and take down Lashley. In a surprising twist, Reed also attacks Theory, asserting his dominance, and we end the segment with Reed standing tall, holding the title above his head. Justin, my fear when they announced this new title happened in this segment, and that was the U.S. champion already shrugging off his current title and being like, well, why don't I have that one?
Yeah, and I can't deny that. And I can't deny that. I wrote it down here, though. It's interesting. That match that was announced on social media a few days ago, which is random on the sense of that there was no TV, Bobby and Bronson have been having a thing, but there was no reason. It was just, there's no TV buildup. All of a sudden this match gets announced on social. This is a triple threat. So it's kind of random. And then in the same week that we find out that we have a new world championship that we're going to anoint to somebody next month, it did make me think, like, all right, well, Austin Theory is somebody who could drop his U.S. title now without being pinned or submitted, which he acknowledged in the promo, which would then kind of make him logically available for the World Heavyweight Championship. And he's a guy, look, he just beat John Cena at WrestleMania. So certainly he's credible enough to be considered as a heel to win that title. So I do think he's something I do think the booking of this match at Backlash is something to watch for how we're going to crown this new champion. We don't know. Triple H did not tell us. Is it a tournament? Is it just going to be one singles match at that event? We don't know. But I mean, I think a tournament would kind of be fun because that would really, but this certainly opens up opportunity for Austin Theory if they felt, we're going to go. And again, to my point earlier, Cody Rhodes having it makes it feel like it's second fiddle. But if Austin Theory, a homegrown star who's been, heel through and through, who's was McMahon's chosen one, et cetera, maybe I buy into that. Maybe that makes sense. So I'm definitely watching this match closer than I would have days ago because of the future implications that it could have for the title picture.
That's a really, really good point that I haven't heard anyone else bring up is you're right, because Theory, it'll feel like he's punching up to the title instead of someone like Cody who's punching down to that title. And that perception makes the whole thing feel totally different. Because it does feel like if Theory won it, you'd be like, oh man, that's a huge thing for him. But if Cody won it, I'd go, oh, okay, whatever. So that's a really, really good point there. Jimmy, it felt like this episode, when it comes to this rivalry, though, was all about Bronson Reed. He had the little video package earlier. He last man standing here. This is Bronson's title to win right now, right?
You would think so, because he's the one who's getting all the steam out of this right now. And, it's working right now. He looks like he's dominant, especially against a guy like Bobby. You know what I mean? Bobby, who's been there for a while. Bronson Reed is, you talk about up and coming young talent. If you don't want to have him, gravitate towards the new World Heavyweight Championship and being in that picture, having him as the United States champion kind of takes him out of that and opens the door for someone like an Austin Theory, or maybe even just reaching a name, LA Knight or something like that. And I know people are talking about certain names of veterans that have been there for a while, but I kind of agree with Justin. It makes it feel like a consolation prize for the old established retired. Like, I saw somebody mention earlier tonight somewhere online where, maybe a returning Randy Orton could be the inaugural. And I'm like, no, come on, man. It's got to be someone that gets elevated by this, not brought down.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that like gets into the weeds about it, but it can't be Randy, because Randy's at a point where his world title wins like historically means something, and it would feel like such a technicality for him to win it with a new championship like this. That would stink a little bit. Though I love Randy Orton, I'd be happy with him breaking the record, just not that way. So we get a little backstage segment that was fun. It was recorded earlier in the day, and it was Boogs and Elias and Chad Gable all talking about how the draft would work. Jimmy, I thought this was a great way to explain the rules to people who don't know how it works. And frankly, sometimes I feel like I need the rules re-explained to me without it being just a guy saying, here are the rules of the draft. Any thoughts on this one? I mean, I know it wasn't a serious segment, but just any thoughts on how they did that?
It kind of sort of explained things, but not really, because people are still saying, is it going to be general managers? Is it going to be like the last time where you're going to have war room with the heads of the different networks and stuff like that? It was still not totally clear.
Yeah.
Unless I missed something.
So one of my favorite things about this, Justin, this segment is it said recorded earlier in the day. And
Boogs knew about the announcement.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I have it written down here. I was going to mention that. It could be possibly a rant for tomorrow, but anyways, never mind.
It's one of those things that, like, it didn't really ruin it for me, but there was that little tee-hee-hee. They messed up.
Maybe word backstage got out, and so I don't know. It was this is where, if there are rewrites or changes to the show, continuity problems do come into play. Of he's not supposed to know what Triple H is going to announce later, and it was it was what it was. It explains the rules. I'm watching this draft because, again, in theory, this is the first draft that Triple H is controlling. So you like to think that there's, again, long-term plan, continuity to what they want to do, and a new world title. And so it was what it was. I mean, again, and then also Otis and Gable, are they splitting? It kind of seems like they are, but maybe if they don't, then Otis has to split time between, being his good Alpha Academy brother to Chad, but then he's got his lust in his eyes for, so there was a little bit of fun to take away from this.
Lust in his eyes, one of the greatest lines in pro wrestling history, by the way. We also got a match between Chad Gable and Ali, and of course, two good wrestlers, good match. And much to the surprise of a lot of people, I assume, Ali got the win here.
Yeah. So if positive Ali got a win in his hometown, we can at least strike down any concern about Vince and maybe Vince's video feed froze for this part of the show and the production meeting because Ali got a win.
I would love that. Like, his Zoom freezes and it's just his face, but like where he's at, he's just screaming at the TV.
He's screaming, but it froze, and the Triple H just turned to Pritchard and said, "Ali's going over." Run out of the room.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. I did mention there were some Vince-isms earlier, but I think this was definitely not one of them. With Ali getting the win,
and then Vince sees it happening, not realizing he froze. He goes, "God damn it!"
It's just
Tremendous.
furious. He could win next week, not this week.
Oh, Ali's gonna be wearing like a baker's apron and gonna get humiliated next week just to counteract what happened this week.
It's funny because it's so random and so believable. That's what makes a baker's apron. Jimmy, any thoughts on the match or anything before we move on?
No, it was like you said, a little bit surprised that he won in his hometown because that's not how Vince books things usually. But anyways, fun little segment. But I still, the whole time I'm watching the match, I'm thinking, how did they know about the World Heavyweight Championship before? If this was, they talked about this earlier in the day, and it even said earlier today at the bottom of the screen, which is unusual for WWE. They don't usually make those kind of production mysteries.
Which, looking at it, there was no reason that it needed to be earlier in the day. Like it could have just been what happened live, because so that's even funnier.
Yeah.
Yes, I predict next week Omos is going to dig a hole and he's going to bury Ali in it
while he's wearing a baker's apron.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
We get a match here. And I should say, Quentin, I see your super chat. I'll talk about that once we get to the segment for that. So just a second here, but I just wanted to let you know I didn't miss you. Cody versus Finn happens. Cody gets the win, which is expected, but still good. Justin, Finn Balor is in a tough spot. I don't really know how else to phrase it. I think he's doing everything right, but he is sort of like the one guy in the group that doesn't really have anything. And so he's kind of like, I feel like he's still a world title type star, but he's sort of the extra third wheel or fourth wheel in the group.
Well, he is now this week, but if you would have asked me this 4 weeks ago,
it's true. I guess Damian Priest was.
Priest would have been the extra because Finn had a Mania Hell in a Cell match to build to. So, I mean, again, I give credit to Finn and the booking and everybody. The fact that if you would have asked me a couple years ago, oh, Finn Balor is going to be in this heel group called Judgment Day, and he's going to get over as a heel, I'm like, you're kidding. No, he's the light AJ Styles. But he's made it work to his credit. So, I'm fine with it. Cody beating him's good. I'm fine with it, and I'm fine with also, I know we'll get to it in a second here, that now Damian Priest gets to transition to the front and center and be part of a major match. Because and this is no shot at Finn, but I think, Finn also was the inaugural Universal Champion in 2016, got hurt during that match, Fatal 4-Way in SummerSlam, vacated the next day. Not saying that he should be punished for that forever, but it's, you get shot, and whatever happens. He had a shot. Damian Priest has not had a shot yet. And I think, again, if we're talking about, candidates for a new World Heavyweight Champion, and I think Damian Priest, he delivers all the goods. He's got size. He's got a look. He certainly does it bell to bell. He's got the promo. He's bilingual, hence why they're building a show around in Puerto Rico around him. I think he deserves a little. I think he deserves some
consideration.
Thank you. Consideration. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big Damian Priest fan. Before we move on to him, though, Jimmy, Cody Rhodes gets a good win here. I think he's, we talk about world champion that will fight and earn it. He seems to be the guy fighting and earning.
Right, he is fighting and earning, but like you said, for the right chance, he needs to defeat Roman Reigns. If he does, if he wins that consolation prize, as we've called it a couple of times tonight, it's just going to do more damage for him. And he's so hugely over right now, so you need to give him more obstacles to overcome until the time is right. Like Justin said, did you say Night of Champions is when it's going to be 1,000 days for?
I think that's the day of 1,000 days. Yeah.
We had a few people in the chat
SummerSlam.
verify
that
that
for SummerSlam. then. You know what I mean? To let him overcome more obstacles. He's already got the match he had tonight. He's got Brock coming up at the pay-per-view. Hard times.
Hard times. So we get
hard
to
times,
hard
Daddy.
time. I wanted to say it, but I can't do a good Dusty Rhodes impression, so I didn't want to.
You gotta get your lisp.
Hard times, Daddy.
Hard times, Daddy. We're gonna go to the pay window.
It's with an A at the end. Window.
Pay window.
You know, an old pal of mine actually plays Dusty Rhodes on Young Rock. So if you check out Young Rock, that fella works. Daniel, he works with me over at the Championship Wrestling. Seth Rollins talks about facing Omos at Backlash while also setting his sights on the world title. Rollins cuts a fiery promo against the politics and part-timers like Roman Reigns, saying he's hungry to fight. Omos appears expressing respect for Rollins, but Seth doesn't hold back and acknowledges Omos as a once-in-a-generation talent due to being born big, while Seth's achievement of that status came through sheer determination. And Rollins then boldly promises to make Omos famous. Justin, again, we see another guy that's looking at that title already, and we have a few super chats I want to get to from Quentin Pendergrass. Says Seth Rollins, inaugural champion, then goes on to say, love you guys. I look forward to Triple J Mondays, and asks, will the new champion be heel or face?
Quentin, all great super chats, and thanks for the love. I think it's almost mandatory that this first inaugural world heavyweight champion of this iteration should be a heel. Any baby face because Roman has done nothing but beat baby faces. Any baby face you have win it, whether that be Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins or Matt Riddle, or go down the line. The perception is gonna come off again as second class. But if you have that new title come off as a heel, especially, I just think that it'll just fare better. If we're trying to forecast it, it's gonna fare better. So that's where, if you're looking at candidates, Austin Theory, who I just said, if he drops the U.S. title at Backlash, I really boost the odds to him. Look at any of the guys in Judgment Day, and I'm not excluding Dom. I look at Dom, I look at Priest, I look at Finn, any of them. If it's a tournament, what if this tournament came down to Dom versus Ray in Saudi Arabia? And you go, well, Ray's Ray. Ray just lost to Dom and me. No, they're not going to have him lose to Dom and Saudi Arabia for this new world title. And Dom beats him because Mommy helps. So now Dom and Mommy both have work. Like, I think there is so much more money and potential to pick out the right heel and have them win it as the inaugural World Heavyweight Champ. It'll do far much more for that heel, and it'll do far less potential damage as compared to if you try to strap it on and basically manufacture a babyface run for one of the faces.
Could you imagine how unbearable Dom and Rhea would be as
I'd love
champions?
I'd love it. I'd love it.
The expression nuclear heat would take new meaning.
I'd love it.
Yes.
Oh, that would be so fantastic.
I would want them not to get too weird here. I would want them to post on social a photo shoot of the two of them naked with their title belts just covering the necessities.
Wow.
It's just run to the hills with it.
Yes,
right.
Yes, it'd be so good. I would love it. Jimmy, what were your thoughts on this? I like this segment, but I think it was phrase you use, the 5 pounds of 10 pounds of bags of potatoes, and I worry
20 and 10.
20 and 10.
Yes.
I just know there's a lot of potatoes and not enough bag. But we have but was there a little bit of that with this where Seth Rollins is trying to promote a match with Omos and trying to talk about the world title and taking shots at Roman Reigns? And Was he a little all over the place here?
You can make that argument, but at the same time, there was the one part that I enjoyed most about what he had to say was when he finally went face to chest with Omos in the ring, and he, and MVP said his piece. He said to him, he's going to give Omos the match of his life, and then he's going to make him famous. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I remembered most coming out of that. Yes, referring to the World Heavyweight Championship, the new title, and blah, blah, blah. But that's the thing I remembered most. And now at first I was like, okay, they just randomly mentioned this match happening on SmackDown on Friday. Why is this happening? Then, MVP made that little explanation. But now at least Seth is trying to get us interested into it by saying something like that. Now I'm a little bit intrigued to see how they pull this off.
Yeah. I think Seth Rollins always has match of the night contenders. So I think he is, when all said and done, I think we're going to look back on his career very, 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 very fondly. I'm a huge Seth Rollins fan. So I actually didn't think there was too much potatoes for this bag. I just wanted to play devil's advocate, Jim. I had to throw it out there.
And get the line out there for this week.
Yes. Not a lot of potatoes tonight. Wednesday we make mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, twice baked potatoes. We do all the potatoes.
The only taters we're going to talk about at the end of the main event. But anyways.
So, let's talk about it. We get to Damian Priest, and we had a backstage promo say he doesn't care about Bad Bunny and will choke slam him if he wants to. Damian Priest versus Rey Mysterio happens, and it was a good one until the abrupt end when Priest uses a steel chair and gets DQ'd. Bad Bunny comes out looking like every original creator wrestler on the Community Creations on WWE 2K23. Swinging a kendo stick before saying he's no longer hosting Backlash. He's going to Backlash to fight Damian Priest. And Justin, I wanted to come on this show and say, I'm so frustrated that they had this match and Damian Priest just threw it out to use a chair. If he doesn't care about winning, what's the point? But that all got washed away under the hype of Bad Bunny coming out and saying he's going to wrestle. I'm happy. I'm good. I don't even care about that other stuff anymore.
Yeah, look, this is a big deal. Bunny, obviously, Bad Bunny has proven that he is devoted to, he's a special performer, but he's not disappointed. He's not embarrassed, WWE. So I have no problem with him being part of a marquee match. Again, in Puerto Rico, Damian Priest is Puerto Rican. It's just marketing 101 here. Priest and Bunny also worked together when Priest was still a babyface, so there's obviously a trust factor here. This just works. I'm not their market necessarily that they're aiming to. But I don't need to be. I'm a huge Damian Priest fan personally, having worked with the guy, so I'm a huge fan of him personally. And just looking at the bigger picture, this just makes sense. And look, this is gonna explode. Bunny's probably gonna need the LWO. That's great. Priest has got Judgment Day, so this is. It's just marketing 101. That's all I can get back to. And I say that because I've seen again crazy critiques or slams on social of, oh, we're giving this rapper this, it's like if you don't see the big picture here, then I don't know what to tell you. If you don't see the idea of what's happening here and what's probably going to work and what's going to sell this building out if it's not already sold out already, I don't know what to tell you. This is just, you got to look bigger picture than your X's and O's of who worked the indies and paid dues, who does this, who does it. If you can't see the big picture of what you have to work with, sorry, you're just not going to get it.
Yeah, Bad Bunny is one of the most exceptional performers, I think, in a very, very, very long time. And I'm not just talking about wrestling. I'm talking about, I think they said he was the number one streamed artist for the past 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
But also he's in movies like Bullet Train. He just headlined 2 nights of Coachella in a row, and now he's here. I mean, he's everywhere.
Jack, before we go to Jimmy, and I know this is where we need Issa. I have not downloaded one Bad Bunny song. I'm not trying to add, but I know that he's important, and WWE has actually brought that. I'm pretty sure he is like the most streamed artist ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
ever. So yeah, I mean that ever streamed artist ever. That's insane.
Yeah. And again, he was in a movie with Brad Pitt last year, Coachella, like this weekend. Like, it's not like it's not like he's got like one popular song out. And let me tell you, I DJ, I play music for people all the time. His songs crush every time. Trust me, the guy's a star. Jimmy, what's your favorite Bad Bunny song?
I refuse to answer that question on the grounds that it may incriminate me. But anyways, as far as you talk, the whole idea behind this whole business is not only to entertain your current fans, is also to bring new eyes to your product and hopefully get them to, join in. And Bad Bunny, like you guys said, is one of the biggest stars on the planet right now in the music and entertainment industry. So he's going to bring some eyes to whatever he does. And if this is going to draw some new eyes to the product and have people go, hey, you know what? This is kind of fun to watch. If they go into it with the right mindset, as opposed to, the back in the day, I don't watch that stuff because it's raw, watch it because it is what Vince McMahon, and I know people hate saying this, it is weekly episodic television. And that's what draws eyes to the product. And Bad Bunny is a guy who has a lot of eyes on him right now, and he could bring some more eyes definitely to the product.
Yeah. And it helps even more. It's one thing to try to associate yourself with one of the biggest stars ever currently, but it helps that star loves your product and clearly has done a little bit of training and whatever, and like doesn't like they go out, like he goes out there and he does some spots. Like, what a perfect scenario.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he doesn't belong. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And when he was swinging that kendo stick tonight,
and that also goes back, Jimmy, to trust. And then this is relevant to both a music celebrity, transitioning to KO and Sammy. When you have two performers who in real life are such good friends, or even if they're not good friends, but they trust each other so much, a lot can happen because they tend to go 110% balls to the wall because they trust each other. And so in this situation, if Bad Bunny and Damian Priest trust each other, which they must, or we wouldn't be in the situation. They wouldn't be doing this. You can swing that kendo stick a little bit harder. You can just not take liberties, but you can just. It's not ballet. You're hitting each other. You can just do things that I'm trusting you. You trust me. We want to make this look as good as possible, do the best business as possible. It works. It's why I always say every time you're going to see a Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match, it's going to be balls to the wall because they trust each other. They trust each other so much they'll do anything to each other because they want the best possible product.
Yeah, and I want to say here, we got a Doc P mentioning, I get the crossover, but the other talent that shows up nightly deserves the time. I would wager there's not a soul in that locker room that doesn't get why Bad Bunny is in that spot. It's not exactly the same thing, but look, if Static Media, the parent company to Wrestling Inc., if they said, hey, Jack, Bad Bunny wants to host the Raw after show, you're out, I'd go, yeah, I get it. I'm bummed, but I get it. He's well, but I guarantee our numbers would be better than they've ever been before, too.
But the idea would be that, okay, if that happened, we bring all these new eyes to the podcast, and then maybe it's okay. The said performer that we just substituted in can't commit to the same schedule that you could, Jack. Okay, now we're going to do a 4-person podcast for a couple weeks. where it's going to be Bad Bunny, plus Jack, plus Justin, plus Jimmy. And then, okay, so that way when Bad Bunny wants to take a few weeks off, it's okay. And the audience has got if you're positively Ali, you're busting your ass. And yeah, you see Bad Bunny's coming in, he's going to get a semi-main situation. But you also have to understand it's more eyes on the product, and it's the trickle down should hopefully benefit you.
Right, because I think Ali's a great example because they've talked about Bad Bunny being on this episode. So I would wager this episode is going to have better ratings, and that means more people saw Ali win a match against Chad Gable tonight because they were tuning in to see Bad Bunny. So we did get a super chat from Quentin Pendergrass mentioning Gunther, Cross, or Drew if he turned heel. I think referring to new champion, the new world champion. All potential people could be the person, but we're at an hour and a half, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I know it's probably for you guys, it's probably like 5 a.m. So we'll wrap it up. But before we go, Jimmy, any final thoughts, and where can we find you online? And everyone in the chat, let me know your final thoughts on the show and your ranking out of a 10.
I thought it was a fine show. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. They didn't knock it out of the park, but at least there were certain situations like with Seth and Omos. At least they got me curious. I'm not saying, I got to watch this match right now, but at least they got me more curious in wanting to see what happens, basically, if that makes any kind of sense. And as far as where you can find, obviously you can find me here on Mondays and Wednesday nights, and on all my social media platforms, doing my Ref and Rant from Monday to Fridays. Every morning it's out there, and it's, again, not to tear down, but to help elevate and tighten some screws. And also you can catch me and my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and our host RJ on Wednesdays in the Reffing It Up podcast. And we talked Edge last week, and this week we have none other than Ken Patera.
Oh, that should be a fun one.
Should be interesting.
And then Justin, any thoughts on the show and final thoughts, and where can the world find you?
No, I thought it was an okay show as we're heading towards Backlash. And again, there was a lot of hoopla about, Vince is rewriting this whole show. And if he did, I don't feel like it was a show that was menaced by it. I don't, other than, like I said earlier, women's tag was cut here and whatever, but I don't think that, I feel like the stories consistently are still being told. Guys and girls we want to push are still happening, so I don't think there's a big deal there. So it was what it was, but I thought it was a good Raw. As we get towards Backlash, at Justin LaBar across the socials, here every Monday night, every Wednesday night, after Dynamite with Jimmy and Issa, and then most Fridays with Spar with LaBar on Busted Open Radio. And it's an exciting time. A lot to be excited about with what's going on with pro wrestling and the general landscape and the CM Punk stuff we talked about. It's there's no day I wake up and look at my phone and I'm not entertained.
Yeah, so much stuff going on in the world of pro wrestling. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. If you're in the Los Angeles or Southern California area, Santino Bros will be doing a show in Azusa on Thursday. Make sure to come check that out if you're available and can. We'd love to see it. Otherwise, you can watch on YouTube at youtube.com/@Santino Bros. Thank you to everyone who is in the chat. Dylan, Ricky, we got Tutgraph, we got Rocky, we've got Ricky, we got Mark, we got Dream, we got Baby, we got Doc, we got sounds like the Seven Dwarves or something here, the way I'm going through some of these names. Quentin and everyone else, Adam Staples. Appreciate you guys so much for being here. If you're still listening, like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We could use a few of those. And that does it for us. We will see you guys tomorrow for the NXT After Show. And make sure to get your copy of 3 Count everywhere.